Hello, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a massage to help with frozen shoulder, and I'm going to be working on the lovely Michelle, and let's go ahead and dive right in. So a couple of things, just to make things a little bit easier on myself. Michelle kind of knows what's ahead, and so I angled her neck down a little bit so this face cradle is a little bit lower than normal, and her arm is in the perfect position for the work that I'm going to be doing. I think that I have time for both shoulders today, but I'm just going to start with a warm up for both sides, and then we'll kind of go from there. So my plan is to do more detailed work. I do like to start pretty broadly, and I really like including the lats in this type of work because it just feels really soothing, and it's not so much that the lats play into frozen shoulder as much, but they definitely appreciate being worked on. And if that big muscle is able to soften and relax, it kind of tells the other muscles that are a little more seized up that they can relax too. And always usually people that have frozen shoulder and some amount of pain, it's nice if you can start with something that's more soothing. The goal, a lot of the time with frozen shoulder, is to create more space for the shoulder joint. So I'm not going to be working on the joint directly, but the muscles around it that affect it. And definitely working on the upper trap a good bit, but focusing a lot on the arm itself. So just kind of starting to hone my focus in a little bit more. So starting to work a little bit more locally, moving towards the shoulders. And just feeling my way around the scapula. And so just really focusing on how I can create more space for that shoulder joint. And really, searching for what the biggest culprit might be, just seeing how contracted things feel from side to side, how everything's responding. Working on this levator scap a little bit, if I can get in there. Sometimes when the upper trap is really tight, it's hard to access. And I'm gonna go ahead and start working my way into this deltoid. I didn't get a whole lot of oil on this arm because I want to do somewhat dry work here. We're going to be doing some active release and some trigger point work. So I might want to just open up that arm a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and just open this deltoid up a little bit. And a lot of the times with frozen shoulder, the bicep tendon can be inflamed. Sometimes it's not. But if it is, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the deltoid. Always with frozen shoulder though, if I can work on the bicep tendon, that's like where I kind of go to first. Right now, I'm just really taking my time with this deltoid. And this is just a wonderful place to do active release work. The arm's like perfectly set up for it. And honestly, like if you're dealing with someone who wants a more aggressive approach, like using a lot of pressure in here once everything is responding well can be just super helpful for frozen shoulder. It can create a lot more space for that shoulder joint if you do it well. And just same thing for the bicep tendon, but you definitely, on this first pass down, first you need to ask your client if they're feeling a sharp or burning pain along that bicep tendon, and if that's the case, like just kind of move forward like pretty slowly. And a moderate, amount of like swelling, like you can work with that, but if there's a lot of swelling, like that's a contraindication to doing applying too much pressure on that bicep tendon. So you can still do the active release work, but just like really be mindful of how much pressure you're offering. And no matter what, this first pass into the bicep tendon, I am going pretty lightly. And then I'll kind of gradually start to offer a little bit more pressure. And this technique alone has helped some of my clients tremendously with frozen shoulder. If you only do one thing for someone that has frozen shoulder, this is one of the best things you can do. And I love it too because I get to sit down and do like deeper work, which is always nice. And Michelle can also help me. And just so long as you're on the right spot, this active release technique is really great. And at this point, if the bicep tendon is not too inflamed, I'm going to offer quite a bit of pressure, and definitely not hurting myself, but offering as much pressure as I can. You can, actually I was gonna say that you can use like a different tool like your knuckles, which is possible, but it's just not as good as using your thumb. Really nice if you can just stretch everything out a little bit after doing that deeper work. And before I forget, I'd like to thank a few of our patrons. I'd like to thank Mary S., Taylor S., and Jay Brown. Thank you all so much for your support. And I'm gonna go ahead and work my way right into this rotator cuff muscle on top of the scapula. And I do really like the way that I'm sequencing everything today is on purpose. So I do really like to work on that area before trying to work on the infraspinatus, because that kind of indirectly allows this muscle to relax a little bit. So, and this is another area that I don't want a ton of oil, because I want to be able to catch the skin a little bit. I don't want to be sliding off of this muscle because it is usually pretty tight on someone that has frozen shoulder. And it's very thick, so it's It's nice if you can really stay put when you find those trigger points. I'd say the biggest mistake that you can make if you're a new therapist and you're doing deep tissue is to go too hard too fast. So it's just really important to work through these different layers of tissue naturally, without trying to force anything. And I really like to take my time here in this infraspinatus when somebody does have frozen shoulder. And at this point, I'm going to start offering a little bit more pressure. Don't worry if you slide off a little bit, like can always go right back in. It's pretty easy to slide off of this muscle if it's really taut. And just working at these trigger points from different angles, just slightly different angles. And it can feel really good to work on this teres major and minor, like in between, just kind of offering a little bit of pressure in there. Maybe digging in a little bit deeper if it feels helpful. I like to, when you're working on these rotator cuff muscles, it's kind of nice if you can find a little routine where you're going back and forth, because a lot of people say they enjoy like this uncomfortable feeling, but it can definitely be like pretty painful. So just kind of giving Michelle breaks is needed. And also honoring the fact that like I am using my thumb a lot, so if my thumb gets tired, honoring that too. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually do a little bit more work in this upper trap. So I'm gonna just start going in with my forearm a little bit, working my way around the scapula. And I'm not doing anything like fancy here, and I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time, but just because I'm here. And I want to save like plenty of time for this upper trap into the neck, and I want to do a little bit of neck work here. Get into these rhomboids a little bit, just because it feels so good. I love having my rhomboids worked on. And again, just thinking of anything that I need to work on to create more space for that shoulder joint. I'm gonna go ahead and start working on this upper trap. And this is a lot easier for me with Michelle's head angled down a little bit more. Have a little bit more space to work with. And this is a good time to kind of assess, like, sometimes the spinal column can get pretty congested and you can feel like the vertebrae sticking out a little bit. So it's good to just encourage your client to do some sort of like something that will stretch out their neck a little bit. Really getting chiropractic work is like the ideal way to help with that congestion. And working on these scalene muscles with the whole surface of my thumb, so really working pretty broadly here and just kind of checking in. I'm not too focused on, it's tempting to like work on suboccipitals here, but I'm really focused on just, again, like the goal of this massage, which is creating more space for that shoulder joint. So I am going to start applying quite a bit of pressure here. And I'm working on the upper trap and just slowly starting to work my way up the neck. And this can be pretty uncomfortable. So just always checking in with my client. You can do some trigger point here, holding. Whenever you have a client that's face down, you want to be careful of pressing down too much. But I'm not worried about that at all right now. And sometimes it's nice to just kind of transition back to a lighter stroke, not just ending with something really deep. And I'm gonna go ahead and end with a pincer grasp. So just creating some really nice blood flow here. And grabbing onto that muscle belly. And I just really, I like I like to just kind of do something soothing for that shoulder, just a really soothing touch to finish. And that is all for today. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's video, you should check out our Patreon page where you'll find some exclusive content. I look forward to seeing you there.
Join us for 14 and 30-day programs, hour-long classes, and much more on our yoga app, Yoga Plus by Psyche Truth. It's free to download and features a variety of wellness content, including yoga, fitness, Pilates, guided meditations, and interviews with dozens of wellness experts.